Live from MMA Fighting Studios, this is Between the Links. And now, your host, Mike Heck.
The iconic voice of Esterlin welcomes you to a brand new edition of BTL. Happy Thursday to us all, and a special shout out, positive vibe sent to our great listeners and viewers in Florida and the areas impacted by Hurricane Milton. It's been a crazy couple of weeks for sure on that end. Mother Nature's been pretty pissed off, and hopefully today's show can help take your mind off of all of that. And obviously, as tough as that might be, we're going to transition into the program because we got ourselves a barn burner today, my friends. We put a bow on UFC 307. We look ahead to this weekend, maybe even a little bit of next weekend as well. So let us introduce the combatants. First, you know this man, Mr. No Gray Area, the Hot Take Kid, the Baron of Boop, and the president of the Khalil Rountree Blood Booger Fan Club. He is the great Jed Meshew from MMAfighting.com. Hey, buddy.
So one of those disgusting things I've seen. Hey, Mike. You can probably hear my voice. A little under the weather, but we persevere because, you know, it's BTL. I wasn't on last week. I missed it, and we got a lot to talk about, including the Blood Booger. So, hey, happy to be here, guys.
Yes, shout out to BC for filling in last week. And joining us from Salt Lake City, Utah. Yes, the home city for UFC 307 this past Saturday, but also the home city for Friday's Karate Combat 50 event. He's an analyst for the UFC. He's on SiriusXM, Fight Court, and 10,000 other things these days. Let us welcome to BTL for the very first time, the great Dean Thomas. Dean, how are you, my friend?
What? I'm good, man. I was able to escape South Florida. My area did not get hit too hard, so I'm happy about that. But first, I got to say, I'm a fan of Jed Meshew already because he got the Woodley Lawler poster behind him. Yeah, Woodley Lawler behind you. Yeah, I got you.
That was the first event I ever covered live.
No kidding.
I live in Atlanta. It was the first one I ever went to live. It's not the first one I ever went to. It's the first event I ever covered live, so I keep that poster as, you know, it was the start of my career. It was fun.
Well, for that, you know, Atlanta is dear to my heart because Woodley won the belt there. I was with Woodley for that. And I had to drive to Atlanta to escape the hurricane so I could catch a flight out of Salt Lake City. Yeah.
We're great for that. We're good for escaping hurricanes. Except Helene. Helene actually kind of got us, but Milton stayed in his lane.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, at least same down here. My parents are in the Villages, which is like in between Orlando and Tampa, and they got hit a little bit, but not too bad. But for those who did get hit,
oh, wait a minute. Mike, your parents live in the Villages?
They sure do.
Oh, man, you got some freaky parents because I heard about the Villages. I heard about the Villages. The Villages is where I want to go when I retire.
Okay, so I've heard those things too. My parents joke about those things. And if they are part of that conversation, then I have no idea. But they just like to drive around golf carts, play golf, have a couple of cocktails, and go to bed at 9 p.m. They're living the dream.
That's what they tell you.
Yeah.
That's what they say, Mike. You don't know what to do. Let them live their life.
It's like a Diddy party over there from what I hear.
You're a bunch of sick pricks. So let's get into the wonderful world of MMA, and let's talk UFC 307 because it took place this past Saturday night in the good old SLC. There were a lot of talking points heading out of it. Not the most all-time thrilling card, but it certainly wasn't a bad card, and it was capped up by Alex Pereira and Khalil Rountree just beating the hell out of each other for the UFC light heavyweight title. Great cherry on top of the Sunday, and the Pereira expands his case for Fighter of the Year with a brutal fourth-round knockout of Khalil Rountree, now 3-0 in 2024, 3 title defenses, 3 finishes. And the rise of Alex Pereira is just plain ridiculous. So, Dean, I want to start with you because we've seen these meteoric rises in this sport. We've seen a lot of stars being made over the years. We've seen lightning strike at the right time for a certain fighter or two out of nowhere that led to big things. But what Alex Pereira has done and continues to do, have you ever seen anything like this in all the time you've spent in the combat sports world?
No, there has been nothing like this, and you got to add some context to that. Because when you think about stars being born and on the rise, people have done it from different divisions. And in different divisions, it's a little easier. Like when Ronda did it, and I don't want to take anything away from Ronda, but Ronda did it in a time where there was just nobody else. and women's MMA wasn't what it is today. But when you talk about what Alex Pereira is doing, he's doing this at a rate and in a manner in which I've never seen before. I don't know if it's ever going to be duplicated because of the way he's doing this. He's knocking guys out. He's stepping up. He's not playing this game of negotiating with the organization. He's stepping up when he needs to. He's doing this on injuries. He's fighting the next best guy. He's taking chances of fighting the number 8 guy on, under these conditions, and he's knocking them out. There's nothing that's been like this before, and I don't know if it'll ever be something like this before or again.
Jed, how do you make sense of all this 5 days after he goes through, he overcomes adversity in the fight, and as we found out, overcame a lot of adversity long before the fight as well? This is just incredible stuff, man. Like Khalil Rountree, I know wasn't the number 1 guy. He wasn't Magomed Ankalaev, but we were all pretty excited about the fight, and we knew Rountree could present some problems for Pereira, and he certainly seemed to do so in the first 2 rounds, but how do we make sense of all of this, what Pereira is doing, especially after this win on Saturday where he didn't have his fastball?
I don't know really, right? Like we're in new territory. This has never happened in this way. There've been other champions who have fought 3 times in a year, defended titles multiple times in a year and done this, but it hasn't been in this way with a guy who just made his debut like a couple of years ago in the UFC. Is our former colleague Shaheen Al-Shadi used to say, and I think it's like the best way to say this, he is speed running a Hall of Fame career. Like he is doing things that normally take fighters years on years on years to get there, to be a double champion, to, move up the ranks of the all-time great light heavyweight champions as quickly as he is doing it, to in the last like year and a month or whatever, like he has headlined MSG, he headlined UFC 300, he headlined International Fight Week, and then this one, it's not as exciting as the others, but it's still another main event, another finish, another bonus, and continue to build the mythos of Alex Pereira, a guy who, frankly, when he came into the UFC 3 years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago, I can't remember, it was, okay, he's probably not going to do anything, right? Like he's probably not, maybe they can find a way to jerry rig it and get him to fight Israel Adesanya, because pretty clearly that's the goal here. But like, we're not expecting anything from him. And so he has exceeded all expectations that could have been had for him in such an enormous way in such a short period of time. I don't know how long train's going to last. Like this ride can end at any moment. He's 37, like it's just, the things don't go on forever, but enjoy it while it lasts, because it's a hell of a fun ride.
Here's what I think too, and I think there's something that we often neglect on his rise, and I attribute a lot of that to Glover Teixeira, because Glover Teixeira and the lineage that he comes from, all the way back to John Hackleman. So John Hackleman trained Chuck Liddell, trained Glover Teixeira, and now all those lessons, because fighting is more about education. It's not just showing up to the gym and working really hard. We got to use these catchphrases as working really hard, but it's a lot about education and knowing what to do at the right time and making good decisions. And when Alex Pereira aligned himself with Glover Teixeira, he took on all the education of that entire lineage, from John Hackleman to Chuck Liddell to Glover Teixeira and all of that stuff. And in the process, Alex Pereira has built himself into something that we've never seen before. Like Jed said, this is uncharted territory. We've never seen anything like this. And then the fact that you got a guy who's incredibly disciplined, who has the history that he has in glory kickboxing. So he has the combat sports acumen, but he's got the discipline and now the education and that lineage that dates all the way back to Chuck Liddell.
And he's got that aura to him too that is just so undeniable. He doesn't have to talk a lot of trash. He doesn't have to cut promos. Speaks a touch of English, but not a ton. And it's like just enough the mystery behind him that makes him so compelling and interesting. Plus, he's just knocking everybody out, which is just obviously a very big thing. But Jed, we play this game a lot, right? Heck, AK and I do this every single week on to the next one. You play the magic wand versus the crystal ball game. It's what we want to see versus what will actually happen. And Pereira says, even though he teased a move to middleweight to fight Dricus du Plessis, he wants to stay at light heavyweight. He says middleweight is out. Sean Strickland helped me get ready for this fight. I'm not going to stand in the man's way. He's next. But the fan base, you know what they want, Jed. They want to see this man go make history, go to heavyweight, try to win a third belt. And obviously, if Magomed Ankalaev wins in 16 days, that's certainly a fight I want to see. I know that's a fight that you want to see. But if Jon Jones goes out there and beats Stipe at Madison Square Garden, I think most people expect him to, and he decides to stick around for another, as much as we want to see Tom Aspinall get his day, I don't think John's going to call for that fight. I think he's going to call for Pereira. And Jones versus Pereira would be absolutely gigantic, no matter how you feel about it. So put the wand down, crystal ball out, Jed. TV deal coming up. They're about to get into negotiations for a new TV deal. If you had to guess on what happens next for Pereira, and this guess mattered a lot, what's he doing next?
This is a bullshit setup because you were on the watch party when you know my answer because I said it. I put this scenario out on the watch party with you sitting a foot and a half away from me. And it's bullshit. You've painted me into a corner to say this, and I don't want to say it. I just think it's true. I used to fight Jon Jones next. I think that's garbage. I think it's a horrifically bad for merit and whatever. But the biggest fight that can be made in mixed martial arts right now that does not involve Conor McGregor, because Conor is his own entity, he exists outside of this world in that way, is Alex versus Jon Jones. A lot of people now want to see Jon fight Tom Aspinall. That fight is just never going to happen. And Dana has come out and said, hey, well, if Jon doesn't retire, he's fighting Tom Aspinall next. Dana says a lot of things, and that's probably not true. If Jon beats Stipe, and I'm using the word if there very loosely, it's when Jon beats Stipe, he is either going to retire, or I think now there is very much a world where he just goes to the UFC and maybe he doesn't do this negotiating publicly for saving face, but he's like, hey, I'll fight one more, but I'm only fighting Alex. And the UFC says, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to have the greatest of all time versus this guy who's an alien, an anomaly, is rising the ranks of the greatest light heavyweight of all time. We're going to do this one special fight. And Tom, you can go fight Cyril Gane and defend the interim belt because you're the real heavyweight champion, but you're doing some other stuff right now. Business comes first, and this is the best business we can do. Jon would love that fight. I think Pereira would be stupid not to take that fight if offered. And I think that business being what it is, that's the fight we're getting probably next summer, maybe April, sometime then. That, to me, if I'm betting, that is the fight I think happens next.
I just loved watching you the whole time. Go ahead, Dean.
No, I was going to say, this is a situation with Tom Aspinall where you have a good artist, but he just ain't got no hot songs out right now. He ain't got nothing going on. He ain't popping right now. And it sucks for him that he ain't popping because he deserves the spot. He really does. Tom Aspinall deserves the spot. Everybody in the industry knows that Tom Aspinall is the best heavyweight in the world. But we don't want our best heavyweight in the world to be a dude who plays with his kids. We want him to be an animal. We want him to eat people's eyeballs. And that's what we get with Alex Pereira. We get a guy who's just dangerous, mysterious, lives on the edge. We like that. And I think Tom Aspinall is going to get the short end of the stick here. I think that the fight with Jon Jones and Alex Pereira will probably happen. Hopefully not in the summer, because that's just too long for Tom Aspinall. I don't think Tom Aspinall should take another fight in between. That just really muddies the waters.
Oh, he's going to have to.
He's gonna want to, and I'm sure they might want him to, but if I'm him, I'm not, because it really muddies the waters. But I'm telling you, the Jon Jones Alex Pereira fight is interesting because I think that is a fight in which Jon Jones can also win and solidify himself as the GOAT.
We'll see what happens there. I do want to talk about Khalil Rountree, Dean, because he is obviously getting well-deserved praise, and rightfully so. The way he built this fight on not trash talk, not all of this stuff that you see in most of these fights, he built it on his hopes and dreams. And can I compete with this guy? Can I hang with the best in the world? These are the questions I had for myself. I was the overweight, out of shape guy who had nothing really to get excited for in life. And then I found MMA and I built my way to get a shot at a UFC world title. And whether he deserved it based on merit or not, the man went in there, took 2 of the first 3 rounds from Alex Pereira and all 3 judges' scorecards, and gave the man hell before getting battered, bloodied, and beaten throughout the 4th round, and just kept throwing in defense as best he could until that lethal combination at the end. How much did his stock rise in your eyes? And is he now a made man at 205 after this performance?
Oh, he's a made man for sure. Careers are built on moments. And prior to this, he had a couple of moments, but not the moments to really define his career or set up what his career could be defined as. And this set up what his career could be defined as. Because prior to this, no one really gave him a lot of chances. And here's the thing, when you have the connections like I have in industry, like we know what goes on in the gyms, and we know what people are made of. Khalil Rountree doesn't train under a rock. We know what Khalil Rountree is in the gym. We all knew he was dangerous, but we also knew that he had some holes psychologically going into fights. And I didn't expect this from him. I don't think anybody expected this from him because we knew that he's kind of a breaker. Like, he breaks in moments. And that's what everybody expected from him, because he's just the type of guy. He lost 300 pounds. He used fighting to create this identity for himself. So he's the type of guy who was just happy to be here. I'm just happy to have my name on the poster. I'm just happy to be fighting for this title. We expected him to get out in a fight, get pushed around a little bit, and break. That's not what happened. Whatever he did, whatever John Wood and them guys did to him at Syndicate and instilled in his brain and say, hey, man, listen, you are ready for this moment. You need to go out there and take advantage of it. Whatever they told him prior and had him drilling, warming up, getting him ready, they did it at a level which can't be paralleled, because here's a man who's a notorious breaker, goes out there, beats on Alex Pereira, shocks Alex Pereira for 2, I thought maybe even 3 rounds. Like, he beat him for 2 definitely, had his moments in the 3rd round, but just really did his thing. And I'm really proud of him. I mean, everybody, I think even Alex Pereira could tell you he's proud of him for going out there and doing what he did.
Jed Khalil has the nose surgery, gave us the blood booger, spirits still high despite the loss, and seeing the fall from this fight and his performance, we've had some time to digest this. How much did his stock go up? Can it continue to go up even in his absence as he recoups and tries to fix his face?
I mean, it went up immeasurably, right? Everything Dean said is spot on. What I'll add is that he is getting a very huge benefit as well from another individual not involved in this fight, who I hesitate to mention him because I'm sure he will find it and then tweet about it, because the man is chronically online. And I'm speaking, of course, of Jamal Hill. And Khalil is getting such a boost of, like, look at how this man exceeded expectations, overachieved, fought his heart out, put his soul on the line for fans to see. And even in defeat, he holds his head up with dignity and the way he is carrying himself. And his afterwards is, hey, thank you, Alex, for showing me what I am capable of. And you got Jamal over on the side with his performative yawn and, like, I still want to fight that dude. It's nonsense when he got gassed out in like 3 minutes. And so it just the contrast between the two of them handling this defeat on top of their own, it really makes Khalil come out smelling even more like roses than he would already. And this is, like you said, he's a made man now. When you have a performance like this, a moment like this, he is no longer fighting in middle of Apex cards. He will not be, if he's in the Apex, it's as the main event. And otherwise, he's on a pay-per-view. He is going places. He is on main cards. His career, I'm not big on moral victories because they are what they are. But if anyone ever had a moral victory and defeat, this one is absolutely one of them.
Well, I tell you, I think it's even more than a moral victory. I think this was the best case scenario for Khalil Rountree in the long term. Because in the short term, let's say Khalil Rountree went out there and caught, because he was inches away from catching Alex Pereira. Let's say he caught Alex with one of them punches, knocked him out. He wins the title. Would we really have accepted him as the champion? We never would have looked at him as championship material. And to be honest with you, the style that Khalil Rountree fights is, I'm not necessarily sure he's a 5-round fighter. He's more of a 3-round fighter. So I think he's better off on pay-per-view cards fighting 3 rounds, giving us his best 3 rounds as opposed to stretching it out to 5 rounds. So I think that him putting up this type of performance, gaining the fanfare that he garnered off of this performance and loss, makes him a bigger star than if he had actually won off of one punch, then maybe had a rematch with Alex, then gotten beat, and then he would have faded away into oblivion. But him putting up this level of a performance, getting all this attention, and getting all this respect, not only from fans, but from fighters, I think this was the best case scenario for him. To put up the fight that he did and lose in the fashion that he did was actually a win for his career.
What do you think about that, Jed?
I'm not gonna go there with it. Once you're a champ, you're a champ forever. Like I get what Dean's saying, but like once
who's Nico Montana
held the belt.
Who's Nico Montana?
The first UFC women's flyweight champion officially.
Well,
that's there for
you
that.
know that.
Yeah, but like you get to forever be, I was a champion. I am on the Wikipedia page of UFC champions. It's there. And being a champion, even if it's under odd circumstances, shit, on the co-main event, Julianna Pena ain't got no wins over anybody in the freaking UFC, but she got one big meaningful win, got trounced in the rematch, and still gets to fight for a title again. Once you're a champ, you're a champ. And I think Khalil would be like, I would take the belt over this moral victory 6 days out of 6. But like I said, this is outside of winning, this is as good as it could have gone for him.
Like I said, in the short term, getting the belt and parading around with that belt for about 100 days might have felt good to him. But once that rematch happened, he would have been gone off into oblivion. No one would have remembered Khalil Rountree Jr.
Banners hang forever.
Maybe this is hey, look, did Khalil Rountree end the trend of dare to be great? Did he make it work? He didn't even need to say it, Jed. He just was.
That's why I love him. He has not uttered the phrase dare to be great, and I'll stand him forever so long as he keeps not doing it.
What, is that like a trend? Like when you do something great,
hate
everybody says dare to be
so
great?
much. It's my least favorite phrase in the entire sport.
Well, this sport is built off of catchphrases.
Yeah, that's better ones.
It's built off of catchphrases of dare to be great. You know, I don't know. That's all combat sports is. No pain, no gain. Push the pace. We always say these two stupid
Weaponizing
things.
cardio is another one.
Weaponizing cardio. You know what? I'm gonna choke you out and see, and let your cardio and see how long that lasts.
My second least favorite phrase. Mike's just trying to make me upset today.
trying to make you feel a little bit better, and have you try to dare to be great as well.
Through anger.
You know what weaponizing cardio is? Weaponizing cardio means just fighting sloppy for a long time.
Yes.
Because like if you're doing something good, you're being effective, and you don't have to do it for a long time because you're being effective. But when you weaponize, if cardio is your weapon, that means you're really sloppy and you're not very effective. Techniques are designed to work, my man.
Well, whatever Julianna Pena did over the last 2 years, it must have worked because she got herself a title fight and she won the damn thing. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next round. But the point for round 1 goes to I got to give it to Dean Thomas, man. This guy just diving in 2 feet, ready to go. The confetti, the glitter falling upon him. He's just ready to react to everything. I love it.
I know how it is, man. Mike, you don't have to give me any pity points, man. I know I'm a guest, but don't give me any pity points. I want to earn my stripes.
Well, don't you worry, because at the end of the day, my opinion means nothing. And you'll find that as the show moves on. But let's talk about this co-main event. We live in a world, gentlemen. Julianna Pena is once again the women's bantamweight champion. She gets the split decision nod against Raquel Pennington in a fight that, let's be honest, very few people thought she won. MMA Decisions reports almost unanimously it was scored for Raquel Pennington. There was one dissension And it was you, Jed Mishu. You scored it a draw, but no one on that site, not one single media member, scored it for Julianna Pena. And since then, even Kayla Harrison, speaking to our own Damon Martin, scored it for Raquel Pennington, but then admitted she missed the first round, which that almost takes Kayla's opinion out of the equation altogether, because that's the most important round of this entire fight when it comes to scoring it. But anyways, we've had some time to let the dust settle here, Jed. I'm not sure if you went back and rewatched this fight. I have. Was Raquel Pennington robbed on Saturday night?
No, I don't think. We talked about a little in the watch party as well. I am very lenient with judging just because they have a very different experience. As long as the scorecards they are offering are reasonable or explicable, I give them a little bit of a break, just because what you're seeing cage side, like I have watched fights cage side and thought something very different than when I went back and watched, and it was very obvious. I'm like, oh, the one I go to is Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen. Cage side, I thought Arnold Allen was like winning that fight. And then I went back, I was like, he very clearly was not winning that fight. He was competitive, he wasn't winning. In this fight, look, a couple of the rounds are very, very clear. And then the first round's pretty much a toss-up. So it's, it's interesting that everybody in the MMA media space gave it to Rocky. I honestly would have thought there'd be a little bit more split. I personally had 3 rounds going to Peña, 2 to Pennington. I just gave Pennington to 10-8 for round 4 because she got the knockdown, whether she was close or not to finishing. She clearly did the most damage and a substantive amount of damage in that round. And I think that should be weighted more, and the rules allow you to do that. So I did. I personally still think draw is right. Honestly, I'm glad we didn't, because a draw means we'd get this fight again, and we need Kayla Harrison to come in here and handle up. But I don't think either party could have been that upset with an outcome. I think this was a close competitive fight, and it broke wrong for Pennington, and that's unfortunate, but I don't think she was robbed.
Well, I thought she was robbed. And in the sense that if you have the belt and now you don't have the belt and you should have won the fight, you got robbed regardless of the situation. You're robbed. You were robbed of your belt. So, at the end of the day, like, rounds can be close and rounds can be subjective. But at the end of the day, one thing that's not subjective is there is a winner and a loser. And when the wrong person gets awarded the victory, to me, that's a robbery. Now, here's the thing. Jed, I'm with you on the judges. I'm very lenient with the judges. Those guys are friends of mine. I never question their decision. In fact, it's hard for them. I sit cage side too, so I see it as well, but it's hard for them because they're seeing it from different perspectives, and they have a lot of distractions, even though they're not supposed to, but they're only human. But the reality of the situation is that our judging and scoring criteria is so bad that it puts the judges in a bad spot and makes them look bad when they make decisions. That's the reality. I'm not blaming the judges. I'm blaming our scoring system and our criteria for the robberies that we get, because it's very unclear. It's so subjective, and you're leaving it up to 3 guys who sit at 3 different spots that really have a hard time agreeing on anything. So at the end of the day, I think we put so much into the fight, and that we said, all right, we have the scoring criteria that was designed for boxing. So how can we fix fighting to fit the mold of the scoring criteria, which is absolutely the worst thing you can do. Instead of fixing the scoring criteria, we want to fix the way we fight or view fights, which is a terrible idea. So I'm not blaming the judges, but I am blaming the system on why Rocky got robbed. Rocky got robbed in that fight. She had a head kick that almost put Julianna out. She dropped her, and I can't remember which round it was. To me, she dominated the fight, and she got robbed. At the end of the day, she got robbed. Now, in the grand scheme of things, Julianna Pena being the champ and setting up a fight with Kayla Harrison, it's a bigger fight. I'd much want to see that. But I would much want to see Julianna Pena earn the fight against Kayla Harrison as opposed to being gifted a fight because the judges saw it a certain way in which I don't agree with.
But Dean, my question is, do you disagree with the judges' scores? Do you disagree that Peña won the first 3 rounds on the 2 judges' scorecards? Because she
disagree
clearly
with
won
that.
rounds 2 and 3.
Yeah,
That's not.
and
I don't think that's
right,
up for debate.
and I did not
So,
think she won the first round either. I didn't think she won the first round.
but do you think it's ridiculous to say that she won it? Because it's. I don't think it. That's just a close round.
To me, I thought it was ridiculous. I don't know. I thought it was ridiculous. I don't know how you can get dropped with a punch, dazed with a
That's in the
head kick.
4th round, though.
Right, but still, I know we judge rounds, individually, but still, I don't know. I don't see how that you can have those type of moments in fights, and the other person here, and also too, and I mean, I don't want to get into a whole scoring debate, but a 10-9 is so the discrepancy in a 10-9 is so vast that we need to start using the other numbers. That's my point.
With that.
Is that we need to start using the other numbers. And because judges are discouraged from using other numbers, we end up with situations like this. Because now she gets dropped with a head kick or dropped with a punch, kicked in the head, and we just look at that as like, oh, it was still kind of close, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9. But that first round, 10-9, was such a close round. It was it could have went either way, right? But in my opinion, I thought Rocky won that first round. So, based on if you gave Julianna Pena the first round, then I guess you can kind of say, yeah, she won the fight. But at the end of that fight, in my head, I clearly knew who I thought won the fight.
Pride rules. And that's why I'm totally with you. I think we are not nearly liberal enough with 10-8s, 10-7s, 10-6s. I know 10-6 isn't actually technically legal, but there's no reason that rounds 1 and rounds 4 should ever be worth the same. And that's why I gave Pennington a 10-8 round 4. And I think it should be a draw. I'm glad we did. I don't need them to fight again right now. I want to see Kale Harrison fight for the belt. But yeah, now we're getting into the whole scoring thing, Mike. And we've had that discussion 8 billion times.
I'm sure everybody's had that. You know who hasn't had that discussion? You know who hasn't had that discussion? The commissions. The commissions just say, "Shut up, fighters. Just fight your heart out. Fight your heart out, and don't leave it to the judges.
In the hands of the judges."
Okay, then why do we have them?
Speaking of bad phrases,
yeah, that's the worst one. Don't leave it in the hands of the judges. All right, well, let's just get rid of them then.
Yeah, I scored it for Pennington, rewatched it, still scored it for Pennington, but I'm also I've been saying this for a while. I'm actually going to be talking to Rocky in a couple of hours, and I can't wait to sort of ask her this question because I'm going to. I was very hard on Raquel Pennington, even though I thought she won the fight, because I thought she let it slip away. I thought she gave the fight away. She had moments in that fight where she could have done more, and she didn't. Like you mentioned, Dean, she dropped her in the 4th round. If she just let Julianna stand back up, she probably finishes her. But instead, she jumps back down and on top of her, and Peña is able to kind of grind out the rest of the round. And you could see it in between rounds, her corner screaming at her. Like, when you are aggressive, when you are pushing forward, when you are throwing multiple shots at her, when you're getting inside, you are effective. And when she did do that, she was. And then she would just stop doing it, and then she got taken down. So I think she kind of let it slip away as well, but we'll get her response to that when I speak to her in a little while. But this was a tough fight, Dean, and Kayla Harrison had her own really tough fight with Ketlen Vieira. She's done a lot of media. She spoke to our own Damon Martin, talked about the effects of the weight cut. But you talked to Raquel yesterday, Dean, and Raquel Pennington said to you, look, Kayla says she wants to take some time off after everything she dealt with the weight cut. So she says, hey, let's give her the time she needs. Let's do Peña Pennington 2. Let's keep this thing moving. And then Kayla can fight the winner. In your opinion, any chance this actually happens?
No. You said the statement earlier about business. Business is everything in MMA. If you ain't popping, you ain't popping. And you got to be popping, baby. And the problem is Raquel Pennington is not popping. I love Rocky. And I wish she was. I wish she got the attention and the respect that she deserves as a true blue-collar worker. But she doesn't. She's just not popping. And the UFC recognized that. And it's not that they hate her. They're just like, yo, we got to sell tickets. That's what this game is about. We got to sell tickets. And before they allow Raquel Pennington to get a rematch, I'm sure they're going to come to Amanda Nunes and beg her to take a fight if Kayla Harrison ain't ready. Because there's no way they're going to let Raquel Pennington get a rematch. Unless they exhaust all other options, will they allow that to happen? But I can't imagine. I think they will be like, all right, if Kayla Harrison can't do it within this certain amount of time, we have to bring Amanda Nunes back. But there's no way they're going to give Raquel Pennington an opportunity. And I think it sucks, but it's just she's not popping. And she doesn't care to pop, but she's just not popping.
Do you think Amanda comes, because Julianna called her out, and boy, a lot of us felt that this is just an awful call out because they set her up perfectly. Kayla on the split screen. All right, Kayla's going to be next. She won tonight. What are you going to do? Like, perfect opportunity for a fighter to plant the seeds. And she's like, nah, Amanda, come back. We'll do the trilogy. Biggest fight of all time. And it just kind of was met with groans. But then out of nowhere, Amanda Nunes dancing around saying, Dana White, call me. What did you think of this? Like, do you think this is her just staying in the news cycle, or do you think she's actually serious about coming back and fighting Julianna Pena right now?
I think there is some seriousness to this because I know Amanda, and I don't want to say she's lazy, but she ain't gonna do nothing extra if she don't need to. Like she's not going to. And she looked in shape in the video, and she looks like she's been training. So my guess is that she's been training, and she's looking for the right opportunity to return. Now, whether it's going to be Julianna Pena or Kayla Harrison, I'm sure she'd probably rather be Kayla Harrison. But if I'm Amanda, Amanda's good friends with Raquel Pennington. And if Amanda doesn't really want to fight Julianna Pena, Amanda needs to do the homie thing. And the homie thing would be to say, all right, Julianna, if you beat Rocky one more time, I'll fight you. That's what the homie would do. But I don't think Amanda's going to try to be the homie to Raquel Pennington. I think she's probably just looking forward to getting Kayla Harrison in the octagon.
Man, that's actually pretty interesting. Jed, what do you think about this whole situation? Does Raquel have any shot here? If we find out Kayla's out for a year, do you agree with Dean that they're just gonna be like, Amanda, come on, let's do this?
If Kayla's out for a year, yeah, they'll try and get Amanda. Whether Amanda will, Dean is clearly in a better position than I am to speak to that. If not, then yeah, Rocky's there. But Dean, this is exactly what I was talking about previously. Rocky's a champ now. She's champ forever. Banner's hanging forever. And so it's unfortunate she lost her title. But now she may, there is a world where she gets an immediate rematch. I don't think that world is likely at all. But even if she doesn't, 135 is not a very deep weight class right now. She's still in okay shape. It would be better if she had the belt because it's always better to have the belt. But if, Harrison goes out there and does fight Peña and Harrison wins, then I think the idea that everyone is on board with is now Amanda comes back and we do Amanda versus Kayla fight that was theoretically possibly going to happen previously. And then Peña kicked over that particular apple cart and set it on fire. If that happens, then maybe Pennington has to fight one person. She got to fight Macy Chasen or whatever and get a win. And then where does Kayla go after the Amanda fight? Nowhere. Pennington is just right there because there's not another option really for her. So Pennington's still in okay shape. Amanda even responding to Peña's thing, which I guess maybe it was a response to that. I didn't see that coming. So maybe this works for Peña. I super don't think it will. And unless she does somehow get a Nunes fight, I will think that was a terrible call out. But look, we're talking about women's 135 right now, Mike. That's the biggest part of this whole thing is this weight class was dead on arrival a year ago. We were mocking it internally and externally because it was when Amanda left, she took everything with her. And now there is conversation. A lot of that is Kayla Harrison based. But look, I thought Pennington did a great job in Fight Week. We talked about it of bringing a little more interest, bringing a little more zip and a little more pop to her on-camera time. Peña is always going to be Peña. Women's 135 is in the best place it's been since Amanda retired. And that's maybe not awesome. We would want it to be better even than it is, but it's encouraging that this division is back from life support right now.
You're right about this, Jed. You're right. Yeah, there's a banner that says Raquel Pennington, but she can't get in the club though. I bet she go to the club and they don't let her in. They don't.
No,
You know what I'm saying?
champion.
They gotta look for her ID. Where your ID at? She can't get in the club.
Nope.
They'll be like, yo, let me see your ID. If you want to come up in the club, if you want bottle service, you got to show me some ID. They ain't respecting that.
You think in a year from now, people are going to be like, I remember you, Khalil Rountree. You're the guy who valiantly got his ass whooped by Alex Pereira.
Well,
no.
But he's gonna follow up on that. He's got to follow up on that. When he follows up on that,
follow-up. If Pennington follows up and gets the belt again, she does.
Pennington, but she's not gonna get an opportunity. She's not gonna get the opportunity because she's not popping.
Just wait. Within a year and a half, she'll fight for the belt again because there ain't nobody else in this weight class.
I thought about this. We are talking about women's bantamweight, and I thought about this. You might think I'm crazy. But I do have high hopes, and I do think there is potential for two women in the division. Norma Dumont. I know Norma Dumont.
She's looked good lately. Okay.
Yeah, Norma Dumont. She got to get a little bit more aggressive. But in 5-round fights, if she can ever make it to a 5-round fight, Macy Chiasson. If she can make it to a 5-round fight, I think she'd be a problem for anybody. She's got some work to do, but hear me out on this. Macy Chiasson, give her some time. She's got a great coach behind her in Safe Saud. If she can make it to a 5-round fight, I would put money on her over Kayla Harrison.
I would take your money. If you want to make that bet, I'll make that bet happily.
I would put money on Macy Chiasson over Kayla Harrison at 135 in a 5-round fight.
Look, if we ever get to a point where that happens, we'll talk.
I hope so.
We don't need to involve the books. They take a percentage. We're good. We can just do that straight up. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I don't do books.
I mean,
plus UFC gonna get me anyway. They're like, hey, but you doing gambling?
I was going to ask who the low-key MVP of this card was, but after the hottest take in the history of the program, I think we got to move on. We just have to transition to that was. I don't know if I've ever heard a take that spicy in the history of the show.
Look,
but was it enough?
And if he's right, Dean, you can put this up on your socials forever. I called it years before it ever happened. Jason beating Kayla Harrison.
Yeah, this is your banner. You're getting the bottle service. You're getting through the velvet rope. You don't need an ID, Dean Thomas, if this comes to fruition. So let's move on to this Saturday back at the Apex. The point for round 2 goes to as much as I respect the take, Dean, it goes to Jed Meshew 1-1.
That's just wrong. I'd have given it to Dean for the take alone. That's a bad point. I'm not going to celebrate. Dean earned that one.
Hey, listen, it's a robbery. It's a robbery. Go to the commission.
That's a robbery.
We'll have to appeal with the commission here. But guys, how do you follow up UFC 307? You follow it up with UFC Vegas 98. The road to UFC Vegas 100 continues on. And the flyweight division gets the marquee. Brandon Royval taking on Tatsuro Taira. Dean, betting odds don't always tell the whole story, but Brandon Royval is a massive underdog heading into this fight, despite having fought almost every big name in this division. I think he's fought the entire top 5. He just fought for the belt less than a year ago. And yes, Taira's look great. And I actually talked to Royval yesterday. He believes he is the most underrated fighter in the flyweight division before saying Tatsuro Taira is the most overrated fighter in this division. And I don't really agree with the latter here, but Royval saying he's the most underrated fighter at flyweight got me thinking. So do you think he's got a point, Dean? Because not a lot of people are giving him a chance to win on Saturday.
No, I think he's got a great point here. And like you, I spoke to him yesterday too. And I thought it was going to be closer before. I thought the line should be a little closer. I did favor Taira a little bit, but after speaking to Brandon Royval yesterday, thinking, hey, it makes a good point here. I'm actually picking Brandon Royval to win this fight. I think, and I love Taira. You know, he comes from the same fight lineage as I had. I fought back in Shudo back in the 90s. And that's the organization where he cut his teeth in. So I love the fact that he's here representing the Japanese MMA, something that no one has done in a long time. And he's over here doing that to the highest level. But with that being said, I do think that there is a pressure that Brandon Royval is going to bring to him that he's going to have a hard time dealing with. And then just, Brandon Royval said he trained with him before. And you can't put so much into that, but sometimes you can put a little bit into that. And I do think that there is something to look into that with. But but I think that Brandon Royval is being disrespected, and I'm actually looking to see him. I think he's going to win this weekend. I think he's going to hand Taira his first loss.
Jed, your thoughts on this? Do you feel like Royval is the most underrated guy? Because not only is he a big betting underdog in this fight, he's been a big betting underdog in his last 3 fights, which, look, it's Pantoja, Moreno, and then this one. And Taira's on a roll. And we're both very high on Taira. I think you're actually a little higher on him than I am. You feel like it's a God-given reality that he's going to fight for the UFC title and has a really good chance to win it. So your thoughts? Do you feel like Royval is the most underrated guy in this division right now?
I think that's an insane take. And that's not to say that Brandon Royval is bad. I think Brandon Royval is an exceptional fighter. He's the number 1 ranked flyweight. You can't be underrated if you are the number 1 ranked guy. Like, that's just not, unless you're just so much better than the champion that it's ridiculous that you're only number 1. Except we've seen him fight the champion very recently, and we saw how it went. Like, that's an insane thing to say. The Taira being overrated I don't agree. I guess we'll see, though. Because maybe he's right. Maybe this is there's levels to this ish stuff performance from Brandon Royval, and Taira comes out and he's still 24 years old. He has a lot of growth and development to do. Maybe we see that, okay, we're a bit high on him. We're talking a couple weeks back. Think where we were a year ago on Benoit Saint-Denis, and now he loses to Dustin Poirier and Renato Moicano, exceptional fighters, and we're just like, actually, this guy might not be good, like the tail of the tape is shown as we play the string out. And so maybe we'll find out that Royval is correct on Taira. I'd be pretty surprised if he were correct. Not that he can't beat Taira. I think he's got a very good chance to beat Taira this weekend because Taira is still young. This is his first 5-round fight. Brandon Royval is scrappy as all hell, is going to be in there competing the whole time. But I can't pick anyone to beat Tatsuro Taira at this point in time. I love this kid. He still has so much growth to show, but every time we see him, he is making leaps and bounds of progress. He is such an unbelievably talented grappler, and to me, that's why he has the advantage this weekend. And that Royval is himself a very good grappler, but we saw that when Pantoja got a hold of him, Pantoja was able to kind of dictate how that fight went in the grappling exchanges. Taira, I think, can do something similar. The question to me is, to what extent can Royval create scrambles, not get tied down? Can he take advantage of what I think is an advantage on the feet, though Taira is coming along there as well, and take advantage of this fight going later? Because if he can get it into the championship rounds, I do think he clearly has an advantage there. This fight bangs. I am so unbelievably excited for this fight because it is 2 of the, in my opinion, 5 best guys in the world at the flyweight division. I think Taira is going to win, but I would not be married to that idea. And if Royval comes out and does prove, hey, you guys overrated this kid, I am the number 1 contender, I deserve to be the number 1 contender, then it'll be a weird conversation because I don't know that we need to see him fight Pantoja again. But also, I don't know that I'd hate to see him fight Pantoja again if he comes out here and he dummies the guy that I'm as high on as I am with Taira.
What you said about Brandon Royval is so true. Fighters tend to create these scenarios in their head where they feel like everybody's disrespecting them, and that gives them a little bit more motivation because it can't be true that people are underestimating him and disrespecting him. If he's the number 1 ranked guy in the division, how is that possibly true? So you're right about that. But with Taira, what I think, he passes the eye test. Benoit Saint-Denis going into those fights with Dustin and especially Moicano, I didn't think he passed the eye test. I thought he was dangerous. That's one thing that we know. We know that he's dangerous. He had a good left kick, and he's aggressive and he's not afraid to fight. We knew that, but he didn't fully pass the eye test for me in terms of a complete skill set. Taira does pass that eye test for me. He does pass the test of a complete skill set in terms of being able to handle different situations from different positions and handle them in an effective manner. For me, the last thing he has to be able to pass is that pressure test that Brandon Royval is going to give him, because Brandon Royval is going to give him put a pace on him, and he's going to come keep coming. He's not going to stop coming forward. That if Taira is as good as he says he is, that should work in his favor. Actually, if he's not as good as we think he is, he's going to fall apart. But with that being said, if he beats Brandon Royval, I do believe that he has the potential to beat Pantoja. I think he would be the best guy in the division if he could beat Brandon Royval.
Would you give him a title shot if he wins this fight, Dean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or does it matter how he does it?
No question.
Absolutely. You give him a title shot. There's no one else. I mean, you
Like
look
immediately?
at Amir Abbas immediately because Pantoja likes to fight anyway. You know, we're not dealing with welterweights who need 9 months in between fights. 9 months, not even 9 months in between fights. Welterweights need 9 months in between negotiating for a fight. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about flyweights who love to scrap. So I'm saying if he can beat Brandon Royval, you set this up in February with Pantoja.
What do you think, Jed? Like, because you got Kai Escura there too. We don't know what's going on with Pants. We don't know what's going on with Escura either. Brandon saying that he was offered that fight for UFC 305 and then compared himself to a prostitute and says that he's no longer a cheap ass prostitute anymore, and that's why he didn't end up taking the fight. Very interesting stuff right there. But is it just, sorry, Kai, you're gonna have to fight somebody else, and we're just throwing Taira right in there?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, outside of the fact that in the UFC rankings, if Taira wins this, he will beat the number 1 ranked contender. Like you just do it. And I know there are actually other options right now. You know, you've got Brandon Moreno fighting Amir Albazi. That's coming up at Edmonton. So if Albazi wins, he may arguably honestly have a better case than Taira, but he's just been out for so long that kind of extended layoff really hurt him as being present in fans' minds. I think we all are very excited about Kai Sakura coming over, but the UFC in general wants them to take fights. Like that's the UFC almost as a rule at this point is, hey, you got to fight somebody before we throw you in there. We need a how do you do to the fans. And so he'll have to fight somebody. Maybe he fights Royval if Royval loses his fight. I don't know how it will go. Azakura is going to have to get one. If Moreno wins, beats Albazi, then Albazi's not really in line. And do we really want to do Pantoja Moreno 4? Like, it wouldn't be the worst thing, but no, I think everything is lined up exceedingly well for Tatsuro Taira. If he can get it done this weekend, to have a chance to become the first UFC champion born in the 2000s. I thought it was going to be Muhammad Mokaev. We know what happened there. I think Tatsuro Taira has a real good shot to be that guy now.
Oh my God, he was born in the 2000s?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
That's so crazy to me. Ugh.
It's wild.
Maybe. Well, Let's see if Taira makes that step. But that's this weekend. There's some things going on next weekend, and I want to touch on that real quick. The point for round 3 goes to Dean Thomas. The welterweight comment put him over the edge. Although Jed shocking Dean with the 2000 stat was pretty darn good. Perhaps my point giving is bad today. It's a great stat. Guys, PFL is heading to pay-per-view next Saturday. We have the Battle of the Giants, Francis Ngannou versus Renan Ferreira. Jed, we got some news. I believe it was after BTL last week, and maybe it was a little bit before, but we got the price for this pay-per-view. We were all saying, please PFL, please ESPN, do the thing. Make it like $19.99. Let's get as many eyeballs on this thing as possible. That's the perfect price point for this card. Let's grow the fan base. Instead, we're back to the $49.99 price tag. And look, this isn't a bad card, Jed. The main card is mostly very solid. We have the long-awaited return to MMA for Francis Ngannou for the first time since he beat Cyril Gane. $50 though, Jed? Is this a bridge a little bit too far here? Or do you think this is priced appropriately?
$50 is it's more money than I would have suggested. I am certain that somewhere in the offices of the Professional Fighters League, there are people working on things of this nature, and that this number is not pulled entirely out of a hat, and that there is at least some data to suggest that this is the price point that they think will maximize their sale to profit ratio there. I am specious that this is correct because, I mean, I like this fight card. I don't want to be out here and be like, this is terrible decision. I actually very much like this PFL fight card. I think it's about the best they can offer, and I will personally be excited to tune in. But also, this is not even an event that's happening in the evening. Like, this is a mid-ish day card because of the location. And I don't know if you're aware of this, October on ESPN, that's college football season, baby. Like, that's Tennessee playing Alabama, like at the same time that this pay-per-view event is happening. You are just restricting your casual purchasing power, not the hardcore fans. Like, I think that is probably what they're having to rely on here is hardcore fans will be interested enough that they will just focus on this, but there's not going to be somebody who's just like, I got nothing to watch right now. Well, I'll click this and see, $50, sure. If it was a $20 price point, maybe you get more people to buy into it. But instead, they're going to be like, hey, I pulled up the college football slate for this question. Bama, Tennessee is in a midday game. I'm trying to see if there are other major things, but like Michigan's playing Tech Notre Dame, like Notre Dame is running head to head with them. That's a lot of marquee brands in the sporting thing to run a competition at your rough timeline. Out of the $50 price point, I think you're going to turn off any possible casual view you would have. So, wouldn't be my call, but I'm sure that they at least have a reason, and I hope that they are right and that this works out. I want PFL to succeed, especially when they're putting their best foot forward like this, because I think this is the best they can offer.
I had no. So what is the normal price of a PFL pay-per-view?
$50.
It's normally $50. All right,
But
so I'm thinking.
But the problem is no one's buying it. Like it's we'll never get the numbers, but like internal discussions and all of that, they're awful numbers.
Well, I mean, I had some insiders tell me that Francis is not the big pay-per-view draw that we think he is. You know, as like guys who cover the sport, we think Francis is a big draw, but in terms of the real actual numbers, they say he's not as big as we think he is. So I was actually comparing that price point to like an $80 UFC, thinking, okay, 50 is not so bad. But now if the normal price is 50, these guys are throwing a card in the midday on college football day for $50. That is absolutely insane to me. That is crazy to me. I don't even expect a lot of hardcore fans to even know this is going on because it's not a normal time where they're looking for it. Like, okay, it's at night and we're looking for this. This is in the daytime where people are like doing Saturday type stuff. This is insane to me. This card should be $10. They should have put this at $10 just to get the names out there, just to get the faces out there, and just to say that. But what I think is Abe was like, no, we can't go. We're not going to whore ourselves out and go cheap on this. We're not that type of organization. But sometimes you got to tuck your tail and do what you got to do. And I think they dropped the ball on this one. They should have put this at $10, no more than $14.99, and been promoting this and trying to get this thing going. But they are making a mistake by having a card on college. Alabama is playing, and they intend to go up against Alabama with $50. They are
Alabama
crazy.
Versus Tennessee.
People, if it's on at the bar, like if it's like you can go to some bars and they'll play this to fight. No one's going to be watching it at a bar for free, much less paying for it. This was a mistake, and I think and I'm with you. I'm rooting for the PFL to do well because they're another organization, and fighting isn't all about UFC because there's hundreds of fighters who never. We need more organizations. I'm rooting for the PFL, but it's hard to root for an organization that just makes mistake after mistake after mistake. And they're constantly making mistakes. I feel they're making mistakes in order to slight the UFC and do things to hurt the UFC, but they're really just hurting themselves. And this was a mistake. This fight, they probably should have had this for free. Honestly, this should have been on for free just to get the names out there. Paul Hughes is fighting. The world needs to see Paul using AJ McKee. I'm not paying $50 to see Paul using AJ McKee, but they made a
Cyborg
mistake.
Pacheco. I mean, it's a good card. There's like one main card fight. If you look at it, it's just like one of these things is not like the other. But those like Cyborg Pacheco, Ngannou Ferreira, Evelyn Edwards too, which we don't really need to see that fight, but it's happening and it's fine. Hughes AJ, all great fights. The promotion for this one has been very weird. Obviously, because as you mentioned, Dean, just Donn Davis is out there doing a bunch of interviews and just dumping on Kayla and saying that she not even he's saying nice things, but then he's like, but then she ran away to the UFC to take these fights. She ran away from Chris Cyborg. She ran away from Larissa Pacheco, who Kayla already beat twice, which is just such a weird thing. And then the whole thing with showing the day of UFC 307, look at Larissa Pacheco beating Kayla Harrison on the same day, which I thought was super weird. But the promotion overall, Dean, I understand that these are two huge guys, Francis Ngannou and Renan Ferreira. It's the battle of the giants. It makes sense. And I'm not going to take credit for this because I've seen it all over social media. Why are they not promoting this as the battle for the lineal MMA heavyweight title? Like, this is being totally forgotten here. It's absolutely insane. There's an actual title on the line and nobody knows about it, Dean. It's wild.
I swear, I really think that I think Donn Davis, he reminds me of like Ahab chasing Moby Dick. And I feel like he's got so much vindictive energy towards the UFC and Dana White that he's making decisions to try to hurt the UFC as opposed to just building his own brand and paying attention to his own company. And I think it's really it's disheartening because the PFL it could be a great thing, it could be a really good thing. But if you don't pay attention to what's going on in your own home, man, it's going to fall down. It's going to collapse quickly. And I feel like that's what's going on here sometimes is that he's chasing this whale in Dana White and not really taking care of his own things at home. So, man, the PFL, they got a lot of work to do to catch up.
Do you think the hype for this, Jed, would be different if they promoted the legacy of the fight and that Francis is the lineal heavyweight champion? He's the guy that on his own accord left the UFC with the belt and went off to other avenues, other opportunities? Or do you think, let's just have the King Kong Godzilla fight promo. Let's just show the world that these are two gigantic guys who one of them's probably going to sleep in this one.
I think that the way they are promoting it speaks to why the first question is so weird. And what I mean by that is they're promoting this to a casual audience in that big men swing hard. They're just running back knockout chaos. Like that is basically just we've just pattern swapped it. It's the same thing. And that's okay. Like that's a reasonable way to promote fights to a broad mass appeal audience. But then you are restricting that with every other part of this. And to me, if you're going to be charging this for a pay-per-view, it's like, okay, the people buying this are hardcore fans. There's not going to be a casual audience if there's a price attached to this at all. But that's okay. We want to market to them. They are the base. We want to build the base as best we can. And in those circumstances, 100%, the marketing should be the heavyweight champion of the world is back. He has been off for 2 years boxing. He beat he should have, didn't beat, but should have beaten Tyson Fury. And now he is back in MMA, and that should be the focal point of this. And they seem to really not be doing that, and I truly don't know why. I think they should be doing that at all points, regardless, because the best thing they have going for them is they have the true heavyweight champion of the world in their organization. And for whatever reason, that's not really how they're carrying this forward. And instead, they're doing stuff like the Donn Davis about the freaking Kayla Harrison ahead of 307, where one, you're just pointing out bad things. And two, it's so cringeworthy that your champion Pacheco comes out and is like, I didn't really care for that. They should be promoting me outside of the context of Kayla Harrison. This shouldn't be a, hey, Kayla sucks. It should be like, hey, Pacheco's cool. Come watch her. I wish they hadn't done that. When your own champions are like, man, what are you doing here? You can't be doing something great. Like, I don't know. PFL, we said last year, I thought this was going to be a really big year for them. They have consistently missed the mark. They've delivered some good fights, but promotionally, they have been all over the map. It hasn't been great. I am hoping that this goes well. I really want this to go well. I am not encouraged by where we're at 2 weeks out from the event, though.
They fully missed the mark for the first, well, probably not the first time, but the biggest time they missed the mark is when Jake Paul first kind of got with them. And they had Francis Ngannou, Jake Paul, Kayla Harrison. They were in talks with Nate Diaz. They had Cyborg. They needed, at that time when they had all these names, stars aligned with their brand, they needed to put on a show right then and there. I don't care what it took. Get all the, cleared out the bank. You got to put on a show right there. You got to have Jake Paul on there. You got to put on a show right there when you got all the biggest names. And that's when they initially missed the boat. I thought they said, you know what? Then I said, you know what? They're not serious. They're not serious about what they're trying to do with the organization. I guess they had bigger plans down the line, but since then, like you said, they've missed the mark again and again and again. But I think it all stems from that time when they had all these fighters and names under contract, and they wouldn't give Kayla Harrison a fight. They let Jake Paul just kind of slide off and start doing his own things. They let Francis Ngannou box. And now we're here, and they're throwing a $50 pay-per-view on the same day that Alabama's playing Tennessee. It's crazy to me.
Well, let's see. Let's see how this all plays out. We'll talk more about how this could all go really bad for them on next week's show, but we're running out of time. So the point for round 4 goes to Jed Meshew. Nicely done. 2-2. Beautiful.
Who could have seen this coming?
I know. Never happens. See? My decision doesn't matter now. I take all responsibility away from myself and I pass it upon the viewers because it is time for the knockout round. One question will decide it all. 60 seconds for each competitor to give their response. Then you guys can vote and then we'll decide.
The viewers vote on this?
What's that?
The viewers vote on this.
They do.
Okay. All right.
That's the whole show. I just don't want to be responsible for picking who wins and loses. So, Jed, you get to decide. This is the price. This is the Price is Right here. Are we taking the showcase? Are we taking the dinette set in the hot tub, or are we hoping for the car?
Let the guest decide. We have to let the guest decide how he'd like to do it.
Dean, do you want to go first? Do you want to pass it over to Jed?
I want to go second.
You want to go second? Very smart man. Very smart man. Yeah. He knows how to play the prices right. Yeah. Jed, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a little fun here. I'm good. We're gonna have a little fun here. I believe this actually happened on Sirius XM. I believe it was Andreas Hale who put this idea out, and since then, it's taken off to a whole different thing. The idea of a one-night tournament for the BMF title. So the names that were suggested were Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker, and the current title holder, Max Holloway. Now, those are 4 terrific names, and this would be a fun-ass tournament if we were able to do this with all 4 of these guys. But if you were the matchmaker of this one-night BMF tournament, are you keeping all 4 of these names? Are you removing one person, removing 2 people? What are we doing here? If you could put this hypothetical one-night BMF title tournament together, who are the 4 guys? Go.
This is the easiest question I've ever gotten on this program. One, I tweeted this and I maintain this. I know the UFC is not prone to do things like this. I don't care. I will pay you $500 to watch this event if you put it together, even with the names given. There is no price that I will not meet you and be like, here, take my money. I would like to see this happen. It's such an unbelievably good idea. And it's 75% of the way to success. If you're doing this type of thing, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, 100%, no doubt about it, includes. Adding Max Holloway, super into that as well. They've all fought each other in a little circle. They are the 3 kings of violence. We need the 4th, like the old 4 welterweight kings in boxing. The 4th violence king, who's also fought all these people. No disrespect to Dan Hooker, love you, you're great. It's Charles Oliveira. The 4 of those men doing violent shit to each other is the sickest thing we can do in this sport. Let's make it happen.
right. So Dan Hooker, the backup fighter, Jed? Is that what we're doing?
Sure.
The backup?
Oh,
he's the alternate.
Dan Hooker, Michael Chandler can be the alternates. That's fine.
Wow. How about high praise for your favorite fighter, Michael Chandler? All right, let's bring in Dean Thomas. Dean, you can have fun with this however you want. We can go different divisions. We can go open weight class. However you want to do this, Dean. If you are organizing this 4-man tournament, how are you putting it together? Go.
First, I got to say I loved his Charles Oliveira. I wish I could steal that. But I'm going to go ahead and give him that one because that was his take, and I respect that. So I'm going to keep Dan Hooker in there just because I love Dan Hooker's style and tenacity. But here's how we make this tournament happen, and it can be a reality, is that you do this. You have those two, you have the 4 competitors fight the first 2 fights of the night in a 1-round fight. 1-round fight, winner advances to the finals, which will be the main event for 5 rounds. So that 1-round fight, whoever wins that round, you go on to the main event to find out who the BMF is. And not only do you have the BMF title on the line, you also put $1 million attached to the BMF to win the 4-man tournament for that. But still, I'm sticking with the same names. I'm adding Dan Hooker in there. I'm keeping him in there. Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway, and of course, Justin Gaethje.
For $1 million, the BMF title, 1 round, then a 5-rounder. Can you imagine 1 round of any combination of those names?
That's the
Before
point.
5 more rounds of any combination of those names?
Yep.
Absolute anarchy.
Oh my gosh. Do we have a semi-final?
So
Do we have a bronze medalist fight too? The 2 guys who are not victorious come back?
No, because
Yeah,
the guys who probably
for
lost the 1 rounds probably got brutally hurt and don't need to fight
that's a
again
good point.
that night.
That's a good point. Maybe they could play like tic-tac-toe or something. I'd still watch that too. I'm sure it'd be really fun.
The 1 round and the $1 million, those are some good wrinkles. That's
some excellent wrinkles.
And look, if we could do this, I know, this is just us talking, just us chickens now. If we could do this, because Poirier talked about it with them on SiriusXM, and was like, look, I'm going to retire soon. I'd like to retire in New Orleans. I'd like to retire in Lafayette, but that's not likely. But the UFC is talking about New Orleans. That would be the end. That tournament would be the end of my career. If we did that in New Orleans, what a send-off to one of the greatest fighters we've ever had. Dustin Poirier getting to do this sick-ass tournament in New Orleans, $1 million on the line. I will pay $500 for that pay-per-view. I will fly to New Orleans to attend the pay-per-view.
You remember the prices for the Sphere when they first came out? Everybody was like, "Holy!" I think if you did this tournament,
insane.
Yeah, I think if you did this tournament, the people would be willing to pay those Sphere prices without complaint.
100%. Like I would have no issues if ESPN was like, "We're jacking the pay-per-view price up. It's $300. Cool, sure, just give it to me. Doesn't matter." I'll not spend $50 on PFL to save that money and put it towards this pay-per-view.
Do it at the Sphere. Do the history of violence throughout the night. The history of brutal finishes and bloody battles and BMFs. Love that. I think we just set it up. And they asked Dana about it on Tuesday. And normally, like when you ask him about 1-night tournaments, he's just like, "Nah, we don't really do that stuff." He's like, "Yeah, sounds fun." I was like, "Ooh, that's fun to hear." That is nice to hear. Cast your votes, by the way. Jed, Dean, who gets it done? When I see Casey's magical thing appear on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, we'll know we have a winner. Jed?
The only problem is if Max beats Ilya, then we probably can't have him in this. Like he probably has to, defend the featherweight belt like you're supposed to.
He'd probably still do it, though.
He would. Like he would definitely do it. But like we should probably be like, no, you should go do your day job. Like you have a belt at home. Go to that. You don't get McDonald's. You got a belt at home. And then we can swap in Dan Hooker or whoever.
But he's got
else.
the BMF title too.
Yeah, but he's vacating it if he's the featherweight champion. And now the BMF is in a tournament. Boom.
Maybe he vacates the featherweight title and just defends the BMF title.
He should absolutely do that if he beats Yeah, I don't even want this thing anymore.
Just throws it down.
I just want to prove I can get it back. I don't care about it. I got this BMF belt. Let's go. Dustin Poirier, I'm calling you out.
Casey's here. That must mean we have a winner.
And he has sleeves on. Must be chilly out in
Oh,
California
yeah.
today.
That's for the preview show. This is just BTL. Just BTL. All right. Dude, this is so incredibly close. Okay, you gotta talk amongst yourself. I need a few
Still
more votes.
waffling? Okay.
Yeah, if you talk amongst yourselves. I gotta give it.
Dean,
the
tell us
votes-
about Karate Combat.
Oh, Karate Combat. Yes, I am here for Karate Combat. It's happening tomorrow night at the Salt Lake City Convention Center. It's free on YouTube. Yeah, free. So yeah, they're not going the price point thing. It's free on YouTube, free on Facebook. You get all the stuff on Instagram, free on their website, karate.com. But some great fights. Karate Combat to me is the new kid on the block, and they are doing big things. Alex Pereira's sister is fighting. So she's out here going to scrap it up.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I'm hearing she may be fighting.
maybe
There's some drama at the weigh-ins today.
Always.
What I was told,
Always.
and this is from somebody who would absolutely know and probably know more than anybody else, Dean. I'm told that Pereira's opponent asked for a catch weight of 130 earlier this week, and then she missed weight by 4 pounds. So negotiations are ongoing, I'm told. There is belief the fight will still happen, but we'll see. So
There's
crazy.
no way. I think this is one of them situations where people negotiate to get a little bit more. Yeah, there's no way this fight doesn't happen. I think that her opponent just probably needs a little bit more money.
All right.
Yeah.
We have a winner.
Karate Combat,
Now we have a winner?
the original Sphere organization, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Casey, who wins?
Your winner today with 52% of the votes is
God.
Wow.
Tight.
Dean Thomas.
Oh, the people's champ.
Way to build the suspense.
That was well done,
The
Casey.
pregnant pause almost got me.
Yeah.
Who were these the same judges from the Raquel Pennington fight? I don't know, man. Listen, I don't want to take the victory here. I thought that Jed was fantastic today, and he got me with the whole Charles Oliveira thing in that tournament. So I'm going to share this victory with my man Jed Mishu. Am I saying your name right?
You are.
All
And
right,
it's
I'm gonna
okay.
share this victory
It's okay,
with you.
Dean. You know,
No.
I dared to be great. That's what I did. I came here.
Well, the problem was I pushed the pace on you, and we should have left it in the hands of the judges.
You weaponized the cardio in a way that I wasn't ready for. And championship rounds,
Yeah,
I
they count.
just didn't have it.
Yeah, they count sometimes.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and that's the lesson to be learned here. It's Cliche City here on BTL. And Casey, you can hit the music. Let's get on out of here. Don't miss Karate Combat tomorrow night. Free on YouTube. Very exciting stuff.
Love that.
And tomorrow
Free is a
we'll
very
be
good
back
price.
as well. Free is a very good price. It's a very,
Free is
very
a good price. Make sure y'all tune in. I'll be doing post-fight interviews. Make sure y'all tune in Karate Combat tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern.
There you go. And then speaking of free, Jed and I will probably be back tomorrow for the UFC Vegas 98 preview show. Perhaps we switch roles here. Jed gets the host chair and I get to be analyst Mike, pundit Mike. It's always a good time when that happens. But next week, lots to talk about. For Dean, for Jed, I am Mike Heck, the iconic voice of Best Only Takes You Home. Good night, everybody.
Love y'all.
This has been Between the Links, an MMA fighting production on the Vox Media Network.